Hi everyone, welcome to my guide on ancient marks. Instead of catching up on sleep, I've poured my energy into crafting this detailed guide to help you understand what are ancient marks, their types and shapes, which role uses what ancient marks, some strategic tips on ancient marks, and a detailed guide on what marks to use on every single character and why. First, let's talk about what are ancient marks exactly. Ancient marks are a system for enhancing your character's performance. They provide significant stat boosts and unique buffs tailored to various playstyles and roles, such as DPS, support, or off-field damage dealers. By equipping the right marks, you can amplify a character's strengths and elevate their combat effectiveness. You can unlock ancient marks by completing Chapter 3, Part 18 of the main story, advancing a character to level 40, or reaching Breakthrough 2 in character progression, which opens initial slots for equipping marks. Further breakthroughs unlock additional slots, allowing for greater customization. Ancient marks enhance core stats, including attack, defense, HP, pierce, elemental mastery, crit rate, crit damage, specific elemental damage, example, fire, water, light, dark. Higher tier or larger marks offer unique effects beyond raw stats. For instance, some provide stackable buffs triggered by specific actions, like landing basic attacks or using skills, making them integral to strategic builds. Next, let's talk about types and shapes of ancient marks. Ancient marks come in distinct shapes, each designed to complement specific character roles and playstyles. Let's break them down. First, tower marks. They are best for main DPS units, example, Florence. They offer 4 conditional effects to maximize damage output. Skill hit, which grants a tower mark enabling a basic attack to increase damage for a set duration. Basic attack hit, which grants a tower mark and boosts crit rate, stackable with each hit. Using this skill removes this crit rate buff. Stamina consumption, which grants a tower mark and increases pierce for every stamina point spent, stackable for a set duration. Without stamina, which grants a tower mark and boosts damage increase for each skill used this way, stackable for a set duration. Ideal for characters who alternate skills and basic attacks to unleash devastating damage. Next is dragon marks. They are best for off-field DPS or support units. They enhances characters who contribute damage or utility when not actively on the field, perfect for team synergy. They are ideal for supports or characters with persistent effects, ensuring consistent impact. Last one is blazing fire marks. They are best for elemental damage dealers or synergy-focused builds. They provide unique substats and effects tailored to elemental specialization or hybrid roles, ideal for characters requiring boosts to specific elemental damage or situational buffs. Each mark varies in size, example 3-slot or 10-slot, with larger marks delivering stronger stat boosts and more potent effects. For example, a 3-slot ring, not. Ancient mark grants a 3.6% crit rate boost. A 10-slot hero's legend. Ancient mark increases crit rate by 3% after a basic attack, stackable up to 3 times, lost after using a skill. Next, let's see which roles use which marks. Tower marks, ideal for main DPS as they amplify damage through effects like stackable crit rate buffs, example, hero's legend. Dragon marks enhances off-field contributions such as buffs or persistent damage. Elemental mastery or HP marks improve utility or survivability, example. Equip marks that boost team-wide buffs or shield strength for supports like Ninsar elemental specialists, example, Ming, Hephae. Elemental damage marks increase damage for specific elements, example, fire for Ming, water for Asti. Blazing fire marks suited for elemental synergy or hybrid roles. Next up are some strategic tips for ancient marks. Here's how to approach ancient marks across different game stages, team building, and resource management. Early game, use low-tier ancient marks from missions as transitional gear. Focus on basic stat boosts, example attack, HP, To clear early content, save Seals of Fate for purchasing marks with crit rate, or Pierce for DPS characters. Mid to late game, transition to high-tier ancient marks for superior stats and unique effect. Synthesize low-tier marks to craft high-tier ones. Use recarving blades selectively to perfect marks for your main team. Example, crit-focused marks for Florence. Team-building match marks to team composition. For example, pair tower marks on a DPS like Florence with dragon marks on a support like Zero. For balanced damage and utility, experiment with 5+1 combinations to unlock hidden passives that enhance team synergy. Resource management. Disassemble low-tier or redundant masks to farm Seals of Fate. Prioritize Tome of Fate and Infinite Multiverse for consistent ancient mark rewards. Reserve recarving blades for 10 slot or high star marks. Avoiding use on low-tier options, and always remember that marks should amplify a character's primary function. Example, damage for DPS, utility for supports. Stats to prioritize for DPS characters: crit rate, crit damage, attack, pierce, elemental damage for supports and healers, HP, elemental mastery, defense or specific buffs, example, shield strength. For sub-DPS, elemental damage, attack or utility stats like elemental anomaly. The general strategy is to use a 5+1 combination, 5 marks for passives, 1 flexible slot, and prioritize high-tier marks, example 10 slot, for endgame refined stats like crit rate or attack with recarving blades for optimal builds. Finally, let's talk about what's the best ancient mark for every single 4 and 5 stars characters. Florence. She's a fire element and DPS class. She's a main DPS with high AoE and defense-piercing strikes. Her best marks are going to be Tower Mark, as they amplifies damage output with stackable crit rate. Example, Hero's Legend for 3% crit rate per basic attack hit, stackable up to 3, and Pierce buffs. The stats that you want to focus on are crit rate, crit damage, attack, and fire damage. Here's why. Florence's kit relies on chaining attacks to build Monarch's stance, making Tower Marks ideal for amplifying her crit-focused damage. Pierce helps against high-defense enemies, and fire damage enhances her elemental output. For example, use 5 Tower Marks, 3 crit rate, 2 crit damage. 1 fire damage mark, Ereshan. She's a dark element and burst DPS with high mobility and single target plus AoE damage with phantom marks. The best mark for her is Tower Mark, as it increases crit rate, pierce, and damage. Increase during burst windows. Focus on stats like crit damage, crit rate, attack, darkness damage. Here's why. Ereshan's phantom marks amplify damage, and Tower Marks boost her burst potential with crit and pierce darkness. Damage enhances her elemental attacks, and her teleport skill benefits from fast combos. For example, use 5 Tower Marks, 3 crit damage, 2 crit rate, 1 darkness damage mark, Enki. He's a water element and debuffer class. He's an AoE damage dealer with a focus on debuffing and breaking enemies using water-based attacks. His best marks are going to be blazing fire marks, as they boosts elemental damage and enhances debuffing capabilities. Focus on stats like water damage, attack, and elemental anomaly. For example, use 5 blazing fire marks, 3 water damage and 2 attack. 1 elemental anomaly mark, Hephae. She's a fire element and a support class that specializes in providing shields and damage resistance to the team. Her best marks are going to be dragon marks, as they enhances shield strength and off-field utility. Focus on stats like HP, defense, and elemental mastery. For example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 GP, 2 defense. 1 elemental mastery mark, Ming. She's a fire element and a sub-DPS class focused on breaking enemies. Her best marks are going to be Tower Marks, as they increases crit rate and damage for burst potential. Focus on stats like crit rate, fire damage, and attack. For example, use 5 Tower Marks, 3 crit rate, 2 fire damage, 1 attack mark, Asti. She's a water element early game support character, providing buffs and minor utility. Her best marks are going to be dragon marks, as they boost utility and survivability, focus on stats like HP, elemental mastery, and defense. For example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 GP, 2 elemental mastery, 1 defense mark, Viola. She's a thunder element and a sub DPS. She is an off-field AoE damage dealer via Silent Dirge passive. Her best mark is going to be dragon mark, as they enhance his off-field damage and utility, focus on stats like attack, thunder damage, elemental mastery, and HP. Here's why. Viola's sustained AoE damage relies on her passive, making dragon marks ideal for off-field contributions. Attack and thunder damage boost her output, while elemental mastery enhances thunder effect. Now, for example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 attack, 2 thunder damage, 1 elemental mastery mark. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, everyone. I'm aiming for 500 subscribers by the end of this month. If you have suggestions to improve my videos or topics you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments. My next video will be an updated tier list for blackbeacon, covering all characters' strengths and weaknesses, so check that out too. Next up is Li Chi. He's a thunder element and single target DPS with HP sacrifice mechanics. His best mark is gonna be tower marks, as they boosts crit rate and pierce during Godfall Fury bursts. Focus on stats like crit damage, crit rate, attack, and thunder damage. Here's why. Li Chi's high-risk kit needs tower marks to maximize damage during battle. Will bursts. Pierce counters high defense enemies, and thunder damage boosts elemental output. For example, you can use 5 tower marks, 3 crit damage, 2 crit rate, 1 thunder damage mark. You can also add pierce instead of crit damage or crit rare if you want. Nanna, she's an AoE damage dealer with full moon and new moon state switch. Her best marks are going to be tower marks, as they enhance his crit rate and damage during state-based combos. Focus on stats like crit rate, crit damage, darkness damage, and attack. Here why. Nanna's AoE damage scales with crit stats, and tower marks boost her output, especially in full moon state. Darkness damage supports her elemental damage. For example, use 5 tower marks, 3 crit rate, 2 crit damage, 1 darkness damage mark, Logos. She's a hybrid with damage, healing, and revive utility. Her best marks are going to be dragon marks, as they boost off-field healing and chord echoes. Focus on stats like HP, attack, and elemental mastery. Here's why, because Logos' healing scales with attack, so to maximize her healing, you need to build her with attack marks, and HP ensures durability. Dragon marks suit her support role with elemental mastery for light synergy. For example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 attack and 2 GP, 1 elemental mastery mark, Ninsar. She's a dark element and assist and support class. She's a versatile support with shields and potential DPS with erosion. Her best mark is dragon mark, as it enhances off-field shield utility and buffs. Focus on stats like HP, defense, elemental mastery, and attack, but only use attack if built as sub-DPS. Why you should use dragon marks? Because Ninsar's shields and buffs scale with HP and defense, making dragon marks perfect for her support role. Elemental mastery boosts erosion if built as sub-DPS, and attack supports minor damage output. For example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 GP, 2 defense, 1 elemental mastery mark, 0. She's a light element and support class who acts as a buffer with attack and crit rate boosts. She fits any team. Her best mark is dragon mark, as it supports her off-field buffs and team synergy. Focus on stats like HP, elemental mastery, but if you really want to maximize her buffs, then use attack. Here's why. Because Zero's attack buffs scale with her stats, her attack buff scales off with her own attack, so you have to use attack percentage dragon marks, which ensure she contributes even when swapped out. For example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 with attack percentage and 2 GP percentage to make her a little tanky. 1 elemental mastery. If you're aiming to hyper-optimize Zero's attack buffs, stack attack percent on dragon marks and use recarving blades to refine marks for attack-heavy stats. Pair her with DPS units like Florence or Ereshan to capitalize on the boosted attack in short. You can just put only attack on her and maximize her attack buffs. Asti. She's darkness element and a support plus debuffer. She debuffs enemies and deploys drones. Her best mark are gonna be dragon marks, as they enhances debuff uptime and off-field drone damage. Focus on stats like HP, elemental mastery, and attack. Here's why. Asti's debuffs benefit from elemental mastery for darkness effects, while HP and attack support drones and survivability. For example, use 5 dragon marks, 3 elemental mastery plus 2 GP, 1 attack mark, Shamash. He's a light element and DPS class. He's a DPS with rage-based mechanics, enhanced by buffs. His best marks are going to be tower marks, as they boosts crit rate and damage for rage bursts. Focus on stats like crit rate, crit damage, and attack. Here's why. Shamash's rage amplifies damage, making tower marks ideal for crit-focused bursts, and attack ensures baseline output. For example, use 5 tower marks, 3 crit rate, 2 crit damage, 1 attack mark, Wushi. He's a dark element DPS character focused on long combos for sustained damage. His best marks are going to be blazing fire marks, as they provide balanced damage boosts. Focus on states like attack, crit rate, dark elemental damage. For example, use 5 blazing fire marks, 3 attack, 2 crit rate, 1 elemental damage mark. Shin. She's a thunder element and DPS class character. Her best ancient marks are going to be blazing fire marks. Here's why. These marks enhance thunder damage and attack, key for her burst damage, and offer flexibility for her stack-based role. Focus on stats like thunder damage, attack, crit rate, and crit damage. For example, use 5 blazing fire marks, 3 thunder damage, and 2 attack. 1 elemental mastery. That's it for the Ancient Marks guide for every single character, guys. Have a great day.